Hey Internet, Eric here again. Christmas season is upon us, and I figured perfect time for me to review my favorite Christmas movie of all time. Um, so first off, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Hope you like what you see. If you're returning, welcome back. And for both of you, whether you're new or returning, just remember that when I go through these reviews, they can usually spoiler heavy. However, my favorite Christmas movie came out in 1984, so it's over 30 fucking years old. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's your own fault. Cutting to the chase, my favorite Christmas movie of all time, watch it every single year, is Gremlins. Now, a lot of people argue the fact that this is not a Christmas movie, and I will get into it and use my examples on why I believe it is. But this was directed by Joe Dante, who just off the top of my head, he's directed The Burbs. He's directed Matinee with John Goodman, which was really good. Small Soldiers, among so many other things that I know I can't think of off the top of my head. But here it is. The plot is Randall Peltzer is a wannabe inventor, and Randall Peltzer is played by Hoyt Axton. And he's in the Chinatown area of Kingston Falls, the fictional town that he lives in. And he's trying to peddle his inventions, but he's also trying to look for a Christmas present for his son Billy, played by Zach Galligan. Right there. Looking for a Christmas present for his son. There's example number one. And while he's there, he meets up with this young Chinese boy who takes him to his grandfather's shop, and his grandfather sells, rare, interesting items. And Randall goes to the back of the shop and he finds a Mogwai, this little cute guy here, and he offers the old man a shit ton of money, but the old man refuses. He says no one is worthy enough or responsible enough to take care of Mogwai. So as Grandpa just goes to the back after refusing. Grandson makes a deal under the table, sells Randall the Mogwai, and as Randall leaves, he tells him that there are three rules to taking care of a Mogwai. Keep them away from bright lights because that scares them, but sunlight will kill them. Never get them wet, and never ever feed them after midnight. And he stresses that because he says never ever, and it's in the way it's read in the voiceover. It's read very slowly, so that stresses the importance of it. So Randall takes Mogwai home. He has named it Gizmo. Gives it to Zach Galligan, who plays his son Billy, and Zach Galligan Billy opens it up and he sees Gizmo, and eventually there is a bond, like any owner with their pet, that is created. And later on, Billy invites over Corey Feldman, who plays Pete, and he shows him Gizmo, and Pete accidentally knocks some water onto Gizmo, and that causes Gizmo to have convulsions. And as they're staring, wondering, what's wrong with Gizmo, all these furry balls start popping out of his back, and they turn into more Mogwais. And the problem is how Gizmo was calm and cute and loving. These Mogwais, are the complete opposite. They want to do nothing but cause trouble. You can see they have attitude problems and so on. Eventually, Billy takes one of the Mogwais to his biology teacher. And through certain circumstances, all the Mogwais eventually eat after midnight. They turn into these cocoons, and they are finally hatched into a gremlin. Now this is kind of a shitty picture because he's got fucking sunglasses on. Here you go. There you go. So they're basically these small little reptilian creatures who do nothing but want to cause mischief and mayhem, and if that means it causes a death, they don't care. They're strictly there to cause hell. So what happens is eventually, keeping this somewhat short, eventually Billy, along with the help of his would-be girlfriend Kate, played by the lovely Phoebe Cates, and they team up and they try to take out the horde of gremlins, which is what the Mogwais turn into, and they have them holed up in a movie theater. Like I said, spoilers. They blow up the movie theater, but Stripe, the gremlin I showed that was in here, the Mohawk, who was the leader, survives. Because he's outside. He's outside of the movie theater at the time. He holes up in a shopping mall. They have to track down Stripe to, kill him. And sadly, spoilers. At the end, the old man comes back for Gizmo and says, basically, Billy, you're not ready now, but someday you will be ready to take care of him. All right, that's Gremlins in a basic nutshell. I'm still going to have spoilers as I discuss my love for this movie. Now, this is a horror movie, obviously, with some comedic undertones. And the reason why I love it is, A, I'm a huge, huge horror nut. My favorite genre. So anything with evil little monsters, especially when I first saw this as a young kid, grabs my attention. And what I really love, first off, is the design, of the Mogwai and, of the Gremlins. And, I mean, look at what I love here. You got the reptilian scales. You got the beady red eyes. I mean, Stripe is the only one with the mohawk, but it's the same design. And his mouth isn't open, but they have, like, rows of razor-sharp teeth. You can't really see too much the hands, but you can see, like, they have 3 fingers on each hand with, the fucking razor claws. And what is great is this came out in '84, so it was before the overuse of CGI, which is how movies are nowadays. So these were all animatronics. And the animatronics are fantastic. It's great because, they're really fucking there. And the actors can act with the animatronics and react off of them. So it's great. What else? The scares are really good. And it's not just jump scares. I mean, there are plenty of jump scares here. But it's just a creepy, uncomfortable vibe you get sometimes when it switches from comedy to horror. Like, we're speaking of the horror right now. The Gremlins, what they like to do, like I said, they will kill people. And there's a scene where one of the Gremlins destroys the brake lines on a character's car. And after, it causes the crash and you see this big explosion, all you really see after the explosion, which happens off screen, you see the camera, Joe Dante puts it in on this close-up on this gremlin's face. And you just see the beady red eyes in the mouth, and you hear they all laugh like witches. That cackle. So that gets you. One of the creepiest scenes, scariest scenes, and it affected me as a kid, was, spoilers, like I said, is when Billy's biology teacher has to deal with his gremlin. Because I said earlier that his gremlin also eats after midnight. Well, what happens is he's got the gremlin in a cage. It's in its pupal state, the cocoon stage. And what happens is eventually it hatches after class. He calls Billy up, so Billy's on his way. So the whole time before Billy gets there, it's like this cat and mouse game. And, the teacher's trying to coax it out. And eventually the gremlin takes care of the teacher. And Billy gets there too late, obviously. And this is, first off, let me say, Jerry Goldsmith, who did the music, and I also think he did the music for Poltergeist, I mentioned before. So he knows how to scare you with music. Billy walks up, and he finds what happened to his teacher. And that intense score that Jerry Goldsmith does really sells the terror. And that's the scene that stuck with me when I was a child. I don't know why, but he just finds his body laying there with a hypodermic needle in him, and he's just staring at him with all this fright. And then the scene continues, and Billy hears this noise. Okay, and he doesn't hear the noise. Excuse me. He reaches for the telephone, and as he reaches for the phone, out of the other side of a desk, you see this long claw scratch Billy on the hand. And what's great, what Joe Dante does is he's got the gremlin in the shadows the whole time. All you do is see its hand. You see its little claw reach up and grab the apple off of its desk, and it starts to chew. and then it grabs some beakers, the glass beakers that you use in biology class. You hear this chewing, and it hates what it eats, so it rips, and it's all sound. It rips open like the heating vent, and it's crawling around inside the heating vents. So what happens is Billy goes to the nurse's office to wrap up the cut on his hand, and you think everything is all well and good, and he just puts his head back on one of the cabinets. It's out of fucking nowhere. The side cabinet right next to him bursts open, and this is the first time you see the gremlin in full form, and it's got this blood curdling scream, and it's just out of nowhere. And then quickly we cut away, but it's throwing things at Billy and it just disappears. That is how you do a jump scare. Okay. What else? There's so many spooky, scary scenes. The scene where the mother, Frances Lee McCain, who Billy's mother, the only thing I know her from is she played Kevin Bacon's mom in Footloose. But she is left home alone with the cocoons, and she knows that they're cocoons, but she goes upstairs and she realizes that they've hatched. So she now knows that she has to deal with whatever came out of these. So it's another fucking cat and mouse game, building up the tension. And eventually she takes care of 3 gremlins inside the kitchen. In brutal ways for a PG movie. Granted, it was before PG-13 was created. But blowing up gremlins in microwaves, destroying them in blenders. And those are gross, but I think the most brutal one is she's got a fucking kitchen knife, and she's stabbing it to death. And what really sells it is as she's walking away, you still see the gremlin holding the kitchen knife in its chest, and you see its legs kicking, so you know the fucking thing's still alive. And then eventually she doesn't know that there's one more gremlin, or there's 2 gremlins left counting Stripe, but there's one more gremlin left that attacks her. And then Billy saves her in a brutal way, takes her to safety. So that's another horrifying scene. And it's just the fucking tension that gets you. And then another great scene is the end scene. I'm just talking about the scariness, the horror aspect is when Billy and Kate and Gizmo have Stripe, like I said, Striped cornered in a shopping mall. And again, it's cat and mouse. The tension is so good, and it's Stripe watching Billy, and he's just one step ahead of Billy. You see the little things where Billy's walking down a toy aisle, and obviously Stripe pops his head out behind all the stuffed animals, so he's been watching them the whole time and then sneaks back. There's a scene where Billy walks in front of, it's another great fucking jump scare. Spoilers, where Billy's walking in front of a bunch of TVs, and just out of nowhere, Stripe pops up on the fucking TV right next to Billy, yells at him, and then he's on all the TVs that are in the department, and he mercilessly just yells Billy, calls him by his name, and then runs away. And then Billy walks around the corner, and he sees the video camera where you can record yourself to be on TV. So he was just that fucking close to Stripe. And I believe, like I said, I haven't done my Wikipedia. I don't do any research on this. If you've seen my previous videos, you see how I've edited subtitles in. But I'm almost positive that Frank Welker does the voices of all the gremlins. I mean, if you need a wild animal noise or any of that type of thing, you go to Frank Welker. And the way he voices the gremlins, but Stripe in general, this guttural, visceral animal noise when he's talking and taunting Billy, so scary. Speaking of voice acting, Howie Mandel is the voice of Gizmo, and it's basically, if you've seen Bobby's World, it's the voice of little Bobby. But what's good is it's not just little coos and noises. Eventually, Gizmo learns how to speak, so he can words here and there, but communicate with everybody, and it's very cute. But I don't want to spoil the whole movie for you, but we'll talk about performances. Zach Galligan, decent performance, as the lead as Billy Peltzer. Phoebe Cates is really good and really likable and sweet as Billy's wannabe girlfriend, and you can see that there's some chemistry. And I guess it didn't hurt the chemistry that I guess Zach Galligan revealed that he had a huge crush on her the whole time. And how could you not? It's fucking Phoebe Cates. But you can tell that they had a good chemistry and they would make a good couple. Polly Holliday, I didn't even mention. We're talking about performances. Polly Holliday plays Mrs. Deagle. And Mrs. Deagle is basically the evil real estate owner. You know, she owns all the fucking houses and all the real estate in Kingston Falls. And she's basically like this wicked witch character. You know, I mean, the first time we fucking see her, she's carrying around this glass snowman head. And like porcelain, this big giant porcelain snowman head. And she interrupts Billy at his job at a bank. And she basically says, hey, your dog broke this of mine. Give him to me and I'm going to fucking kill him. You know, in so many words. So that shows you right there, the first time you fucking meet her, well, before that, she bumps into some people that owe her rent and they're starving and blah, blah, blah. And she basically says, you know, fuck you. But when you really get to know her, basically the first thing you understand about her is she wants to kill this man's fucking dog. Just because he broke, you know, her fucking porcelain snowman. So that shows you right there. So, spoilers, when she finally gets her comeuppance, it's in a scary but comical scene, which I won't ruin at all, but you're like, yes, finally that bitch is gone. So you're actually cheering for the Gremlins in that sense. Performances, Dick Miller. The man Dick Miller. If you've seen a Joe Dante movie, you've seen fucking Dick Miller in it. Because he's got to be in damn near all of them. Excuse me. Dick Miller plays Mr. Futterman. Okay, and Mr. Futterman is this old war vet. I don't know if it's Vietnam. I don't know if it's, well, from the time frame, maybe it's World War II or Korea. I don't remember. But he's this old, he's not really racist, but he hates foreigners, okay? Like, he's not calling them, you know, dirty names or anything like that. But what he is there to do is somewhat be a comedic foil. And he's just there to talk about, like, there's a scene where Billy's car breaks down, and he says, Billy, the reason your car broke down is because it's a goddamn foreign car. My car is, you know, made in Kentucky. It's American. You know, that's what we need. And so he's there to be funny, but then he's also there to be sympathetic. Because there's a scene where Phoebe Cates plays Kate. She works at a tavern. And Mr. Futterman's there drunk, and he's talking about how, what this and that, you know, just basically, you know, letting off some steam. And it's very sweet, but it's very sad, so it makes him a sympathetic character. And then when he and Mrs. Futterman meet up with the Gremlins, that's another intense scene where, you know, it's very, very spooky, but then Jerry Goldsmith has kind of like an intense but upbeat score, which is very surprising. But it works. It works. It brings levity to the terror that is happening in the scene, but it's not really funny. You'll have to see the scene to understand what I'm saying when concerning the score. Now, this is a horror movie, but it's a horror comedy in parts. And what is great is the comedy in this movie isn't overkill. I mean, the Gremlins do goofy and stupid shit all the time, like to distract Mr. Futterman. They're on top of his TV antenna, and they're just, you know, bouncing around and trying to fuck it up and stuff like that, and they're laughing and giggling. So they have their funny stuff. But the two main scenes of comedy here is scene number one, and everybody who has seen this movie or has at least heard this movie, they wanted to talk about the scene where all the Gremlins get together and get drunk at the bar that Phoebe Cates works at. And it's a nice, sweet, funny scene. It's only like maybe 5-10 minutes long, but it's very funny. It breaks up the horror, you know, the tension, because we have Gremlins getting drunk. We have Stripe and other Gremlins playing poker, and Stripe sees one Gremlin, you know, pull an ace from behind his ear, so he just takes a gun, shoots him, laughs, and like it's a, you know, just a regular day at the office, and then goes back to playing poker. There's parodies of the Gremlins doing the flash dance, and I mean they're swinging around on ceiling fans, and it's funny. And then of course it stops when Phoebe Cates has to stop them, and then Billy shows up to save her. And the other comedy scene, which is what else it's known for, is when the Gremlins get together in a movie theater and watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And it's basically, them getting, stupid on sugar and popcorn and stuff like that. But it's another funny scene that, again, takes away from what's so intense. Another scene that is really, really spooky, and we're talking about Jerry Goldsmith, the composer, is there's a scene where Billy is tracking down Stripe, like I said, the head gremlin. And he takes him to this YMCA. And after he finds Stripe and Stripe attacks Billy, Stripe jumps in the pool. And we all know that, they multiply with water. And what Jerry Goldsmith does here is the very subtle use of the score. But it sounds like a little, not really a foghorn, but like I don't know my fucking instruments, but you just hear a wah, wah. The whole scene, as you see the water bubbling and smoking and stuff like that, it's, Stripe is in there getting ready to, I guess, give birth to all these other gremlins, and you just hear it wah, wah, more and more. And I don't know if this was the intention, but ever since I was a kid, I always thought this, and I still think it now, is maybe Goldsmith's intention for the wah-wah noise was, uh-oh, basically saying Billy and Gizmo and the rest of the town, you're fucked, dude. Because now you have one gremlin in an entire swimming pool getting ready to give birth to these other gremlins, and then the reveal of all these fucking gremlins. Insane. There really isn't anything I can give shit to this movie. I mean, there's one scene which is very out of place, and I won't really ruin it, but it's the scene where Phoebe Cates, explains why she hates Christmas, and it deals with, her childhood. So out of place, kind of takes you out of the moment, and it really doesn't need to be in there. But it's kind of cool looking at a sequel perspective, because they parody it again in the sequel. But that's basically it. Shit. Anything else? Score. Oh, why is it a Christmas movie? I already told you. Gizmo is a Christmas present. There's Christmas music playing on records and everything like that. And the final thing to prove it is when the police chief and his deputy, and Billy has already told them, what the fuck is going on. Of course, they think Billy's stupid and drunk or something like that. And even though they meet Gizmo, like they physically see fucking Gizmo right there with them, they still think, this is all bullshit. And they get some calls about all the chaos that's happening in the town. And as they're driving through, they stop, and out of a house bursts a man in a Santa suit who's got gremlins all over him, and he's fighting, and they're destroying him, biting him and eating him and trying to kill him. There you go. The gremlins are killing Santa Claus. That's how you can fucking prove that this is a Christmas movie, where the evil monsters are eating Santa. And what's really creepy is when the shithead sheriff rolls up the window to drive away, you just see the face of a gremlin focusing on the sheriff, and he's just saying, ho, ho, ho. Scary shit. I mean, how can you not be frightened as a child at that scene right there? You're Santa Claus, one of the most loving things that you grow up with if your family, celebrates Christmas, being eaten and mauled by these little demon, creatures, and they just end it with ho, 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 and he's looking like directly at you. Fantastic. So, all in all, not just a great Christmas movie, a great horror movie in general. I have loved this movie ever since I was a child. I could not honestly tell you how many times I have watched this. I mean, I have so much Gremlins memorabilia. I mean, down here in my basement, I'll fucking show you. I actually have a Gremlins doll from like 1984, or a Gizmo doll from 1984, and right here. See? The fucking thing right there. Doesn't have the tag, but it's obviously from 1984, and fucking thing still works. If I can keep this thing from 1984, that tells you how much I fucking love this film. I might discuss the sequel in a different video because it takes everything in a whole new direction, but we won't go into that right now. I'm just sitting here praising Gremlin. Oh, I didn't even bring up Judge Reinhold. That fucking asshole. Judge Reinhold is not in this movie very much, but he is the foil to Billy trying to hook up with Kate. And he plays Gerald, who is like the bank's like vice president. He's just this worthless piece of shit, ass kisser, and he's trying to sound impressive to Kate to win her over. Very small role. He's maybe in it for like 5 minutes, but goddamn, he's another memorable character here. So, in the end, I can't praise this enough. This is, like I said, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's not in my top 5. Eventually, I'm going to do a top 5 of my films of all time, but it's maybe top 8 because I like to, have films of all genres. So yeah. Gremlins, Joe Dante's best movie. Can't think of anything other than, off the top of my head, other than The Burbs, Matinee, and Small Soldiers. But the man has done a lot of work. Go check them out. Watch Gremlins if you haven't. Sit down, Christmas time, watch this instead of White Christmas, even though, sorry, honey, I know you love White Christmas, my wife's favorite Christmas movie. But Gremlins is the way to go. So, in closing, thank you for watching. Hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully it got you to be interested in Gremlins if you're one of the 2 people in the fucking world that hasn't seen it. Please subscribe to my channel if you're new. I appreciate that. And if you already are a subscriber or you're not a subscriber, feel free to comment down below because you know what? One of the things I love about YouTube is I love the interaction with fans. Any constructive criticism is welcome. Any reviews are welcome. Christina, I know, one of my buddies, you recently had a request. You want me to review the movie Scrooge since it's Christmas time, the Bill Murray movie. I'm about ready to go upstairs and rewatch that so I can have it fresh in my mind to do another review. Gollum or Golem. Is your name's pronounced Golem, right? Because you have the little rock figure as an avatar. I'm going to review eventually. You asked me for Star Wars The Force Awakens, and was the other movie called Turbo Kid? You sent me the trailer, and it looks fucking awesome, so I will definitely be reviewing that. And Golem, thank you for your constructive criticism. I'm listening to you and, trying to do my best to improve the stuff that I do. But yeah, any suggestions, of different reviews, feel free to add them or suggest them. And what I'd also like you to do, if you like this video, please go back to my previous videos and check them out. I've done movie reviews of Back to the Future Part 2 because we recently had Back to the Future Day, here in 2015. I've reviewed a shitty Dolph Lundgren film that hopefully, if you watch my review, you won't waste your time watching Dolph Lundgren's Command performance. Don't do it. I also have categories where I just basically rant. It's so much Star Wars related. It's basically George Lucas can go fuck himself. And I also have a category where it's called You Hate It, I Don't, where I feel like I'm in the minority loving a movie and I try to defend it and show why it's not as bad as people think. I've got a couple Friday the 13th movies in there. I got Halloween 3. I've got Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. And outside of the horror genre, I have Demolition Man. And I'm going to be adding more to that outside of the horror genre as well. I plan on doing Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Howard the Duck, and Super Mario Brothers, a lot of fucking video game movies. And wait till I get to Uwe Bowl. But in closing, like I said, thank you, yada yada, like and subscribe. Go watch Gremlins. Cheers. And it's not after midnight, but the booze is kind of hitting me, so I think I'm going to go have something to eat. So, have a nice night.